Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a match review of Villa's excellent 3 points away at Nottingham Forest on Saturday. 2 points just to start. Yes, I am wearing a cap. I've had a relatively lazy Sunday and I could not be bothered to do my hair. Second thing, for the people that complain and say we only do a match review when we win, we've actually only lost 6 times this season, and the fact is that the podcast is going to be later this week on Thursday, so we wanted to do a video to tide the subscribers over, so that's what we're doing. Rollo is with me as well. Hello, Rollo.
Hello, how you doing, Dan? You alright?
Phenomenal. How about you?
Nice little intro. I wasn't expecting that. You thrown me a little bit there. So, Dan, another 3 points live on Sky away from home. Great win. What did you think?
Yeah, we've put all kinds of hoodoos behind us this season, really, if you think about it, because it wasn't that long ago we couldn't win a game away from home to save our lives. And if it had been an away game on Sky, you knew there was absolutely no chance of 3 points last season. So we've kind of put that all to bed this season, which is really pleasing. Obviously, any win is a good win, and going to Forest, a few people were obviously worried that they had their new manager, but I thought it was a comfortable display, which seems silly to say at 1-0, but I did think we were comfortable. It wasn't the best display in the world, but I would say it was very efficient.
Yeah, there weren't too many moments that I can look back on now and think, you know, I've said in the past when we've played certain teams, I thought, oh, typical Villa to throw this away at the end. You just think, it's always in the back of your mind that something might happen.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I don't really feel worried anymore. I sort of feel confident in our ability to put a game to bed, especially with the experienced players we've got, which I'm sure we'll come on to. People like Snodgrass and Hutton both winning good free kicks towards the end of the game to break it up and slow it down and things like that. And that's stuff that we haven't seen Villa do for a couple of years.
Yeah, probably for the last 24 years of my life, going down to Villa and watching Villa, I've always had that nervy feeling, like you say. But to be fair, this season we've seen games out, even when we've been 1-up, relatively comfortably. The QPR one away stands out to me because I was there. We were 2-1 up. People would usually panic, but I never actually felt like we were in trouble and that we were going to concede. There is, if anything, to this squad, people might not like the way we play all the time, but there's certainly a massive resilient streak within the squad, and there is that desire not to get beat and not to get caught out in the last 10 minutes of games.
You'll probably know it better than me, but there was a stat shown on screen during the game that when we've gone ahead, I don't think we've lost in like 20-something games, is that right? We've won 16, drawn 3 and lost 9 or something like that.
Well, I know it's been a long time. I mean, that game was about 12, 13 months ago, I think, the Forest game. So we're on a good run when we go ahead, which is pleasing to see. I mean, I think, to be fair, Villa have always been a bit like that. If we get that first goal, we're pretty good, but there was a time when we couldn't get that first goal either. That was another thing that we couldn't do to save our lives. And once we went behind, you always felt as if we weren't going to break teams down. But we've got a bit of variety in the side now and the squad, and we can come at teams from different angles. So I think different circumstances won't cause us too many problems now.
So we'll go through a couple of key moments from the game then. First of all, talk me through our goal.
Snodgrass 6 weeks ago was getting a lot of stick from fans, which I
less than that even.
Well, yeah, I said on the videos here, on the podcast, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. Okay, he may not have always performed to the best of his ability, but he still always made stuff happen, and he never hid. I mean, his delivery for the goal, that's perfect for Scott Hogan, and that's what Scott Hogan hasn't had since he's been at Villa. He hasn't had someone who can pick him out, and I don't know whether you saw his run back on the replay. It was a really, really clever swivel, and he moved on to the second defender, and neither of them could pick him up, and he ghosted in front of them and tucked it away. I mean, I think it was pretty questionable goalkeeping. If I'm being honest, you've got to come and clear everything out there as a goalkeeper. But it seems that Agnew's really, really made a difference to the way we come forward, and in particular, it looks like he's made a difference to Hogan. I spoke about that a few weeks ago on the podcast, that I've heard Agnew's made a real difference, and Steve Bruce said himself he's obviously been doing some one-on-one work with Hogan, and so far he looks like he's working, and he's got a smile on his face, which is something he hasn't had in the last 12 months. Hogan, he's never looked completely happy or confident and now I don't think we need to be in for a striker, because I think it would send the wrong message out to Hogan. I think we keep giving him a run. He won't score every week, I wouldn't have thought, but he'll score more often than not if we give him the service, I've always thought. There's
a visible change in him when he scored a goal. When he scored the one against Bristol, his shoulders went down, he looked more relaxed, looked up for it, and the same happened the other night as well. his celebration, he was really happy that all the other players came around him, everything. That they'll know how much that means to him, and hopefully now he can just build on that, get the run of games like you've mentioned, and keep pushing on now.
He's been very honest as well. His interview after the Bristol City game spoke volumes for his character and the amount of hard work that he's prepared to put in. He wants to make it at Villa, and there would have been doubts in his mind about whether he was going to, and obviously there was doubts amongst the fans too. And to be fair, the doubts were quite starting creeping into me. I've always thought he was a good player, but it did look like it just wasn't going to happen for him, and that he'd go elsewhere. And I always thought if he went elsewhere, he'd end up for him. But it's just pleasing to see Villa playing in a way that's now getting the best out of him, although it's taken an awfully long time for that to happen.
After the goal as well, Snodgrass, another great free kick in for Terry, the header that hit the bar. Terry was one that we mentioned pre-game as, does he come back in for Elvick or not? He did, and didn't put a foot wrong, did he?
No, I mean, that second goal I think would have killed the game, and we may have gone on to see the amount of goals like we did in the Bristol City game. If that had gone in, the floodgates might have opened, but as it was, we had to be a bit more conservative towards the end, and we ended up winning the game 1-0. I thought for the first 15-20 we were very good, and we didn't end the first half well at all, but I thought for pretty much all of the second half we played in a real positive manner. Although we didn't create loads of chances, we had Grealish flash one just past the post from range as well. In the second half we had a couple that went across the goal, or where players were jinking in the box and it didn't quite happen for them. But John Terry came in, and it's a good job I've got no say Aston Villa, because I wouldn't have played him, but he just looked like he'd never been away, and you can just see his presence and what he brings to the rest of the players.
Glenn Whelan came off at half-time with an injury, and our good friend Bardell came on to play the holding midfield role, which there was a few posts on Twitter saying, oh, Bjarnason's coming on, there goes the 3 points, blah, 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 blah. And he's playing in a new position again, how's that going to suit him? And it looked like that was his position.
Yeah,
I think he's a left midfielder. I don't really know. He's played so many different options now, but he looked comfortable there, and he looked like more comfortable than Whelan in his own position, if that makes sense.
I thought Whelan did okay in the first half. I remember him making a couple of good blocks towards the end of the first half, I think, but he's had a December to absolutely forget. It was an absolute write-off for him, so I get why there's some frustrations with him, but I wouldn't say he did anything wrong in the first half. But Bjarnason in the second half, I mean, he started in the holding role anyway against Peterborough last weekend. I don't want to go into that game too much, but that's where he played. He played as the anchor man in that game, and to be honest, I didn't really notice him, mainly because Peterborough just seemed to be rolling through us, so I wasn't surprised to see him there. But what I was surprised with was how well he played there. He looked so composed. His interceptions, he was in the right place 9 times out of 10, and I think Jedinak and Whelan, the one thing you can level at them is they're not mobile as they could be, but that's purely down to age. He kind of did all the things that they do in that role, but he was also more mobile and athletic, which I think helped us. So I think he staked a real claim to be in the team now. Yeah,
I don't think he did any too much of the side that Jedinak would do when he's up there for headers and things like that, but I don't really remember Forest doing too much long ball stuff where Bjarnason would be the player to come and clear it away. But when it was on the floor and he had to pass it on and move it and be in the right place, I never once thought, oh, Bjarnason's let us down, blah, blah, blah. He did what I expected him to do. He just kept it ticking, was in the right place, kept it moving, got it off to those creative players and let them do their bit, and he was very disciplined in his own role there.
Yeah, he put in a real stellar performance, I thought, and he was one of the reasons I think we saw the game out so comfortably. I mean, to be fair as well, someone who never really gets praised because he's just good every week is Chester. I thought in the first half in particular, he's just always in the right place at the right time, and it's not a fluke because he does it every week. His positional sense, I think, is absolutely on another level in this league, and John Terry kind of alluded to it on Instagram, what a player James Chester is, and he's someone we're very lucky to have because he's comfortably a Premier League defender in my eyes. Look back, and if you'd have said at the start of the season you'd have no Codger and no Jedinak for most of the season in January, and you'd be, I think, with 5 points off second, I think a lot of people would have taken that. Some of the people had a pop at me when I said that on the podcast last week, but I genuinely think there wouldn't have been many people that wouldn't have taken that. So I'm satisfied with where we are. People will criticise that and say I shouldn't be satisfied with 4th, but I am.
Well, yeah, but to say you shouldn't be satisfied with fourth, well, we haven't finished fourth.
Yeah,
There's still
exactly.
20 odd games to go. We've got every chance of finishing second. I think people, like we've said millions of times before, that you look back when there's been a sticky patch and you think, what were we moaning about? But then when another sticky patch comes round, it's Bruce out, he's got the tactics wrong, this player shouldn't play, what we're doing here, what we're doing there.
Yeah.
And then you go and win 2 or 3 in a row again and you go, oh, we're actually 5 points off second. That's quite good, isn't it? I'll stick with Bruce for now then. You can't have it both ways. You've just got to let it go, and we will win more games than we lose, because that's what we've done so far. You just keep winning and keep going.
That's the thing. As I said at the start, we've lost 6 games. I mean, I shudder to think how many games we'd lost at this point last season. I think, although the football isn't as free flowing as it could be, and I can see that, I'm not blind. There's been the odd game where that's been the exception to the rule, but in the main, the football isn't as fluid as the fans would like. But I think it's undeniable that we've made progress. In my opinion, the fact we finished 13th last year, we're not going to finish 13th this year. Second is very much the goal, and it's very much achievable at the moment. I just think at this point of the season, it would take an incredible bad run for Bruce to go. They're gonna stick with him, so we may as well get behind it. And I think if we're all together and we're all united, I think we can get second. I think that tweak in formation has been the real key thing for us, changing it to a 4-1-4-1. Because I think, to me, that's where Grealish and Hourihane are playing. They're both playing centrally with a 1 behind them. I don't see that Grealish is playing number 10 at the moment. I just think him and Hourihane have got, as long as they do their defensive work, they've got a licence to come forward, because there is a designated protector in front of the back four now, and I think that's really ended up suiting us. The wide players can come forward with a bit more freedom as well. I mean, Adoma was on a great scoring run, and the goals have dried up for him a little, although his record's still very good. But Snodgrass has been chipping in with the goals on the other side now. Hogan's obviously started scoring. I mean, Grealish does pretty much everything but score in most games. That's one thing I'd love him to add to his game, a few more goals, because then we really would be flying him. He's unlucky. He's got great technique. He showed with that shot that he curled just wide that he's got the ability to score goals. I actually think he needs to shoot more often, because I think he's got a really, really good shot on him, and it's something we haven't seen enough of. But him and Hourihane, I think, are playing really well in the middle of the park now.
When you're watching the game, it's not as rigid as that, because Hourihane will pop up and he's down by the right-sided corner flag and he's in the box. Then Grealish is tracking back and running and doing his defensive duties as well. Hogan, he's hassling everybody, he's running, he's always on the move. And those three, and the wingers as well, when they keep chasing people down and closing down the space, the sitting defender doesn't have to do anything, because people are always going and moving around anyway. And if it does get back there, you're relying on somebody who's good at the defensive duties to do their job. But because we've got the forward players doing bits now, where in years gone by, you think of the strikers we've had, and they don't do that side of the game, whereas now we seem to be playing as a unit and moving together and doing things together, and that's working now. Yeah,
we've got a lot of mobile players as well now. We've got players with good fitness, and fitness was always a problem for Villa as well over the last few years, but that doesn't look like it's an issue in terms of fitness of getting round the pitch and not blowing out their eyes after an hour. That's what I'm talking about. Obviously we've had injury issues, a fair share of those this season. But there's also a better mentality, and there's a better team spirit now than there's ever been. You can see that the players genuinely care, and that's why sometimes I get a bit annoyed when we lose and people have a pop. Sometimes I have a pop at the players, because it's clear to me that they do care, and that hasn't always been the case at Aston Villa over the last 4 or 5 years. We've had a lot of chances, we've had a lot of people coming in for a paycheck and not putting the work in, but you can see that every one of those players on the pitch ran their socks off, and that's really pleasing. I mean, it should be the bare minimum, but at a lot of clubs it isn't. So I think we've got a good bunch of lads now that really care, and they seem genuinely focused on getting that automatic spot, and I really think we can do it.
So as I mentioned earlier, we put a tweet out saying, send us your thoughts on the game, we'll read some of them out, see what other people are saying. Obviously we always like to try and include other fans' opinions where we can, and we're going to read some of them out now. First up, we've got Noah from Fancams. He says, Bruce has got a real togetherness going into the squad which we have not seen in a while. You can't fault anyone. From Johnston to Hogan, they're 100% committed, which is something we've obviously just talked about quite a lot.
Yeah, that fits in with what we're saying. You're saying Noah from Fancams. I mean, I haven't been there myself to do Fancams the last few, but I haven't seen Noah on Fancams for a while.
People like to talk when we lose, don't they? No one turns up when we win 5-0.
It's a different story. Yes, it's a funny old game. One here from Frank. He says, if Ulloa arrives, will we change the way we attack again? Will he be on the bench? First off, I hope we don't sign a striker. I don't think we need him. I think it sends the wrong message to Hogan, and if we do sign him, Uljo is obviously going to play, because that'll be a condition of him joining, I would have thought. So I'd stick with what we've got, if I'm being honest. I don't know how you think, Roller.
If you're going to sign somebody like that, they're not going to come and sit on the bench, because there's no point, especially dropping down a league as well. I think it'd be very harsh on Hogan and Davis, who I think between them, you've got two different styles of play. So if it's not working with Hogan, you bring in Davis and he can bully people a little bit. But then again, he's not the goal scorer, so I can see the merits of bringing in another striker, a goal scorer, but I do think it'd be a little bit harsh on the guys we've got. One from Robbie Byrne, he says, great win lads, Snoddy was brilliant, we're very lucky to have him.
He's a top level elite championship player. I've said that before, and he's playing at the top of his game. The last three, I think he really is showing what he can do. I mean, he must have been fouled about 107 times in that game on Saturday. I've never seen someone. I used to think Grealish got fouled a lot until I saw that game on Saturday. Snodgrass was just getting fouled left, right and centre, and it also goes on to what you say. Some of them probably weren't fouls, but he knows when to buy them, and that really winds you up when you're opposition and that's happening to you. But when it's happening on your own team, you absolutely love it. So he played really well. He was comfortably man of the match, I'd say.
Josh Baker says, feeling confident, we weren't at our lethal best going forwards, but with a confident, solid defence, all you require is one goal. It's a very good point. AV George, it was men against boys. I thought our experienced players really proved their worth, managed the game very well, so organised at the back. Bruce's decision to recall Terry, well justified. Linda Pallett says, Grealish's all-round game has improved so much. He looks stronger and fitter. His tracking back was fantastic as well. Did you see the interview with him on the Villa website the other day?
Yeah, I did, and I tweeted Paul Brown to say how much I enjoyed it and how I'd like to see more interviews with the Villa players like that. He's certainly talking a good game, and he's backing it up on the pitch now. Everyone knows I think he's an exceptional footballer, and I've always had his back and always supported him. But he's coming back into this team from his injury, and he does look so much more confident, so much more stronger, so much fitter than he was last season, and he's a joy to watch at the moment. I thought he was unplayable against Bristol City, and he put in a really good display again yesterday. I mean, another one of the Twitter comments is about Grealish here that I've got in front of me, saying Jason W. Villa J says, Jack is as popular with the opposition fans as Ashley Young once was, and that's a compliment, because that means he's a good player and that he's doing well, and that other teams envy the fact that we've got him. As I say, I think he can add goals to his game, but he's on top form at the moment.
Gavin Nuttall says, an extremely accomplished and professional display from front to back. Some players are really coming through and at an important part of this slog. It has to be said also, Sam Johnston, another top display and a real backbone giving stability and leadership.
Yeah, he's very vocal. He's a lot more vocal than I remember him being.
Yeah, definitely.
Last season, and that must come from confidence. He was someone I gave a hard time last season because I didn't think he did as well as he could, but I've got absolutely no criticisms of him this season, and probably still at this stage he'd be someone I'll be voting for as player of the year. I think he's contributed an awful lot to Villa this season.
Will Clare says the new 4-1-4-1 formation has made a hell of a difference, really looks solid defensively, which is what we've talked about. And Big D replied to that, saying a big reason for our improvement has been the pressing of our attacking five. All five have displayed outstanding work rate, and the addition of Grealish in the middle has given us that extra bit of quality. The rear six aren't half bad as a unit either. Great team effort yet again, which is basically what we were saying before, isn't it?
Yeah, I like Big D. He speaks a lot of sense on social media. I think that's the thing. We've got the collective now. Last season, it was kind of all about the individual because it was down to Codger. Otherwise, nothing was happening really. Going forward, although we were pretty good defensively, we never really looked like we were going to score unless Codger pulled a rabbit out the hat. So,
rabbit.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realise as I said it. There's a real collective spirit now, and there's a good group of players, and you can see that they all get along. They all want the same thing and are all pulling in the same direction. Got one here from Gary Mallinson. He says, in my opinion, the reason fans were so unhappy with the Peterborough defeat was because in the past our confidence has been so fragile that any negative result would put us back to square one. However, yesterday proved we can be a solid team that know how to get a result. I didn't really see it like that. Me and Chris spoke on the podcast, and I thought because it was pretty much a completely different team, the Peterborough game shouldn't really come into it. It's interesting, Rob Bishop, who writes a lot for Villa and has done a lot of stuff for Villa in the past, still works with the club. He put something on social media earlier saying if he'd have been offered 6 points and been knocked out of the FA Cup, he probably would have taken it. And that was where I was at. I wasn't happy with what unfolded that day, but when it came to the time that we were out, I wasn't too disappointed, because I know that if we focus on the league, we can definitely achieve something this season. Right, so we hope everyone enjoyed that video and enjoyed their weekends with Villa getting that 3 points away from home. Comment below with your thoughts on the game. Obviously, we've tried to cover as many of your thoughts as we can at the end of this video, but if you've got any further thoughts, let us know in the YouTube comments and we'll do our best to reply to some and have a good old debate. If you're not already subscribed to the channel with your post notifications on, then please can you do that? That really helps the channel grow, and we appreciate all the support we get from everyone. If you have enjoyed the video, give it a like as well. Thank you very much for watching. The podcast will be on Thursday this week, so that'll be up early on Friday morning if Dan Rolinson isn't too distracted by his puppy. Stick with the channel, stick with the Villa of the Villa. If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.